those of you that do struggle with worry during the day, you have distractions. And so, to a degree, the worry can be kept in check. But nighttime comes, you're in bed, and it is dead silent. Even if you have a fan, it's dark, and the fan is the only thing there. You're not seeing things, you're not listening to things, you're not being engaged in work, you're not having to process things. It is just you and the dark and your thoughts. And it was awful, awful, awful. Consider yourself hugged. We are Tami and Michelle, and your weekly hug starts right now. I know. It's just me again. Michelle will be back soon. She has some life things going on, so it's pulled her away, but she'll be back just as soon as she can. So in the meantime, you're stuck with me. Mm. So show of hands out there in podcast land, whether you're listening or watching, how many of you have ever looked at the clock in the middle of the night and it was, let's say, 1 o'clock, and you're like, okay, if I fall asleep now, I'll get 5 hours of sleep. And then you look at it at 3 o'clock. Okay, if I fall asleep now, I'll get 3 hours of sleep. And then you you look at it at 5 o'clock and you're like, oh, I might as well get up. Okay, show of hands. You all know my path, my history. But one of the worst things about struggling with anxiety, I mean, the panic attacks were frightening and horrible. Yes, that was the worst part. But I'm going to say the second worst part was nighttime. Because during the day, those of you who might be worriers, and you may not be here for help with sleep because you have anxiety or worry, but I'm guessing that's a big part of it. And so, those of you that do struggle with worry during the day, you have distractions. You're at work, you're taking care of kids, you're taking care of family, you're volunteering, you're watching television, you're listening to a podcast, you're reading a book. There's light, there's sound, there's your senses are all being stimulated. And so, to a degree, the worry can be kept in check. I mean, to a degree. But nighttime comes, you're in bed, and it is dead silent. Even if you have a fan, it's dark, and the fan is the only thing there. You're not seeing things, you're not listening to things, you're not being engaged in work, you're not having to process things. It is just you and the dark and your thoughts. And it was awful, awful, awful. Are you feeling me? I know that some of you are. Did I say awful? Let me say it one more time. It was awful because what could you do? And so I remember this was in the 90s. And there was a woman, she's still around. She has a podcast. In fact, I need to make lots of notes here. Her name is Lucinda Bassett, and you may have heard of her. But she had a cassette tape series. I'm embarrassed to tell you. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was cassette tape. And it was something about overcoming anxiety. And there were like 16 of them, and they were all great. But the one that really changed my life was the one on sleep. I want to share with you how that helped me. And then I'm going to tell you the 4 things I want to do with you during our time together. Okay, so you remember the ginormous headphones, which are coming back. I mean, you see people now with these huge headphones. But at nighttime, that's not super great. I would put my headphones on and I would play that cassette tape. And it lasted, I don't even know, let's say 20, 25 minutes. And it was, from what I remember, Lucinda's voice talking with me. There was progressive muscle relaxation. I'll talk more about that later. She did that with me. There was visualization, which I'll talk about. And there was music. And so there I was with my headphones on, which makes you feel sort of safe and enclosed. and I was having to listen. Then I was visualizing, which a lot of science shows can be very much compatible to you actually seeing something. So I'm listening, I'm visualizing, and I'm doing something active with my muscles, and I'm thinking and I'm following directions. And when all that is going on, it is very difficult for your mind to butt in and interrupt you. So I would listen to it, but I wouldn't fall asleep. But I didn't give up because I think at some point she would talk about don't give up. You're not going to fall asleep the first night. So I'm throwing out numbers here. I don't remember. It's been 30 years ago, but I didn't give up. And let's say a week or two in, I noticed that I fell asleep before it was over. And then maybe another few days or a week, I fell asleep in the middle. And that, do you see what I'm saying? And it was so valuable to me that sometime in the early 2000s, I recorded a sleep CD with a Nashville studio musician. He did the music, I did the voice, called Learning to Sleep. We don't produce that anymore, but I do have some of it's a CD, but I do have some of those. So if you write a comment about your sleep, whether it is on the podcast, show notes, blog, whether it's on our social media, or maybe it's on the podcast platform itself where you listen. And if you do that, please let me know because I don't always get those notifications. Like I just discovered I had 2 Spotify comments on the Spotify podcast platform. One was from 6 months ago, one was from 3 years ago. I had no idea. So let me know. And I don't know how many CDs I have, but I'll do a drawing or something. So that's how powerful it was to me. Sleep was such an important part of my healing from anxiety. I couldn't have done it without that. And so I don't want you to be a person who thinks that not having sleep is just, it's just part of life. We're going to get to that in a minute. If you followed me, how much I talk about suffering and validation. So it's coming. I want to know if the stress club is keeping you from sleeping. So I'm going to share so much with you today, and I have a little bit of a structure. The first thing I want to do, other than sharing how important it was with me, is to try to talk you into it. I want to cite very quickly some research. I will post the links to a lot of these in the show notes. I also want to appeal to your vanity, if that will help. But I have like 5 things, real quick things to share. The first one is about healthy aging. So this study found that consistently, and see, that's the importance, consistency, not 100%, not perfection, not freaking out if you lose a good night's sleep, but on a consistent basis that you work on and you fairly regularly get 7 to 8 hours is the latest research. And if you do that, it enhances the likelihood of healthy aging. And part of that, ladies, is your appearance. If you are not sleeping well, you're going to look tired. You're going to have the bags and the dark circles. Wrinkles happen. I mean, I hate to have to appeal to that part of us, but I mean, I don't feel like I have a deep root in vanity, but I want to age in a healthy way. I want to do the best that I can to protect my body and my appearance. All right, second thing. Oh, wait, on the flip side of that, excessive sleep. So there is research that sleeping longer than the recommended, like 7 to 8 hours, correlates with poorer cognitive performance, meaning your brain performance. And our brain performance goes down when we age anyway, and we don't want to help it along, but especially in people with depression. So we really want to hit that 7 to 8 hours fairly consistently, and it's what your body is set up for, and I'm going to explain that in a few minutes. There's other research that indicates that older people experiencing excessive daytime drowsiness may have a higher risk of developing cognitive risk syndrome, which is something that is pre-dementia. So let me put that in layman's terms. when you're not sleeping at night and you're drowsy during the day, as an older person, there is a correlation of developing pre-dementia conditions, which obviously indicates potential dementia. Am I just lifting you up here? Are you just like, yay, I want to listen to the rest of this. This is making me so happy. I told you I wanted to talk you into it. And one more thing about physical, and then I want to talk about mental. Another study that showed that just 3 nights of sleep deprivation can raise the risk of heart disease, even in young and healthy people. Now, we also know that then getting regular sleep is a protective factor. It can lower your risk. So your body your heart needs it. And there's this myth that when we go to sleep at night, your body just shuts down, like your whole body is just resting and relaxing. And that's not true. When you go to sleep, it's like the garbage truck that comes around, like the street sweepers in big cities. It comes around, collects the garbage, cleans things up. And that's what your body is doing. It is improving your heart condition, your immune system condition. It is cleaning up. And when we don't sleep, think about it's nice to have visuals. Again, here I'm trying to just really pump you up, but think about New York City or a big city. And if there's no street cleaners at night, think about what that would be like during the day. And over time, like, oh, I'm just thinking of this. All right, let's say no one comes to collect the garbage overnight in a big city. The next day, it's pretty terrible. It's smelling, people are worried, there might be vermin, but it can be taken care of, right? Pretty quickly. But if you let that go on over time, it's going to take a lot of cleaning up to do. Feel free to use that because I just came up with it. Okay, so your body, your heart, your immune system, all of you, it needs sleep. Now let's talk about mental health. Night owl behavior. All right, where are my night owls? Not me. I go to sleep between 8 and 9. I'm up between 4 and 5 pretty much every single day. I like it. That's not the way I used to be, but I am now. So another study found that night owls have better mental health if they curb their tendency to stay up into the wee hours of the morning. So when we say things like, that's just me, that's my clock, we are not nocturnal creatures. We are designed to sleep at night, stay up during the day. Now, if you have a night shift, there are ways to work around that. I'm not here to talk about that today, but I will look for some links for anybody here who is working night shift, and I'll put those in the show notes. All right, woohoo! How you feeling? Good? Yeah. All right. I just wanted to talk you into it. So now, after giving you all of this research, all of this information about why sleep is good for you, let me ask you why you're not sleeping. All right. So wherever you are, think about that. Why are you not sleeping? Now, maybe you have a medical condition. And honestly, if you're not sleeping and you think it's medical or you don't even know, please go see your doctor. Get the medical part at least off of your plate of worry. Go get that checked out. If you have a medical condition, if you have a new baby, maybe you're caring for an older parent. Maybe you're in a season right now where you are in school and you're working. Maybe you have multiple jobs. There are many reasons why we don't sleep. The one that I want to address most here is you don't really know. Maybe you're worrying at night. You're having trouble sleeping. One question I want to ask you, I told you I'm coming back to this, is it because you don't even realize it, but you have allowed the world to tell you that if you do sleep well, that somehow you're not validated? You've heard me talk about the Stress Club. And if you haven't, let me put a link. It's my book. It's my life's work. It's my PhD. It's my dissertation. And it's about the world telling us that we should suffer. Now, there's a mattress commercial that I included in my dissertation. I included it in my book. I will put a link to it. It shows this woman who apparently has a lot of money. And it shows her on this ornate, big, like, I don't know, French period history, big bed. And I think she has a face mask on. And the announcer, she's sleeping, and the announcer says, "Meet Judith Goldbrush. She spends like there's no tomorrow. She sleeps like there's no tomorrow. But what about the rest of us? In the real world, we're lucky if we get 6 hours of sleep." And I'm like, what? The message there being, if you sleep well, I don't know, are you lazy? Are you not important? Do you have nothing going on in your life? Lucky to get 6 hours of sleep. No, no, no. The thing is, when we are in those stages of life, new baby, all the things I mentioned, let's process it that way. That this is a stage in my life, but I want to get past that. I don't want this to be my identity of someone who suffers because the world is telling me I'm not supposed to sleep. Okay, are you with me? Think about that. I think it's foundational that we need to process, why are we not sleeping? And if we don't know why, then we can't address it. I can't address your medical issues. I did a TikTok, YouTube short about this yesterday. I'm doing a short series on sleep. And a woman wrote that she has a sleep disorder. It could be you have sleep apnea. I don't know, but that I can't help you with. But it can help you with trying to sort out why you're not sleeping. And then please take the appropriate steps to try to sleep better. I know I'm sounding preachy, but it's because I'm very passionate about this. All right, let me talk to you for a minute about your stages of sleep. So you can think about that and what's your night, because then when I get into the tips, I want you to know that the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is keep a journal. Blah, I know, but just stay with me. So a little bit about sleep and insomnia. There are 5 stages of sleep. If you don't know this, there's stages 1 through 4, and then there's REM or deep sleep. I'll post links to more information on that. I find it very interesting, but you may not. Most of your deep sleep occurs in the first half of the night. Really, really deep. This is, you're not dreaming. And then your dream sleep, your REM, occurs in the second half. So during one entire sleep cycle, we progress from stages 1 through 4 and then dream sleep in about 90 minutes. So a 6-hour sleeper will move through 4 sleep cycles during the night. We spend about 5% in stage 1, and that's where we're just not quite sleepy, we're drifting. And then 50% in stage 2, where if we got awakened, we'd be very startled. 20% in deep sleep and 25% in dream sleep. I just read all that to you. I find it fascinating that all of this happens while I'm lying there in my other room. And then there's your brain has a 24-hour clock, and that's governed by melatonin. You might have heard of, some of you might take that as a supplement, and body temperature. So your best alertness is in the late morning and early evening. The light that you're exposed to helps regulate your sleep-wake cycle. And that's why in places like Alaska, when they go through these times where they have 22 hours of light or 22 hours of dark, it can be really difficult. And there's a lot of mental health struggles. So your sleep drive builds throughout the day, and it's used to build up your pressure to sleep. Your brain has this 24-hour internal clock. And when sunlight enters your eyes, melatonin decreases, which promotes you to be awake and alert. Body temperature rises during the day. And then in the evening, light decreases. It triggers melatonin. Your body temperature drops, and we start to get sleepy. And there's one other thing I want to mention. I'm going to throw some science on you. When you move and exercise during the day, there's a byproduct of that as your cells break down chemicals. I won't go any deeper than that. Y'all know I have a biology degree. Michelle has a chemistry degree. So we love talking about this. But when you're active during the day, there's a byproduct of that. And that byproduct builds up through the day, that chemical, and that promotes sleep. So being active during the day is really important. Now, if you're with me on being over the age of 60, we sleep less, but we also don't experience as much of the negative side effects of not sleeping as younger people do. All right. So I have so far shared a little bit about my story. I've talked you into sleeping, hopefully. I've asked you why. And then we talked a little bit about sleep science. So now the good part. What do you do? The first thing I want to encourage you to do is to keep a diary. I know. I know. I you're like, okay, you want me to write all this down. The National Institutes of Health has a free sleep journal. It will be in the show notes. It will take you a couple of minutes. It's jotting down things like when you went to sleep, how you felt, when you had caffeine. The importance of doing this is not to give you an additional task. It's to try to really find triggers or patterns or things you didn't know. And I'm going to be really mean here, and I'm saying it to myself too, but if if you're not sleeping, it's a big deal. And if you're not willing to journal to try to figure it out, like what's happening and what are some things that you can do to sleep better, then maybe you're not quite ready to dig in. And I want to go back to what I said about seeing your doctor. Take that journal with you because I can almost guarantee if you go to see your primary care and or even a counselor and you say, I'm not sleeping, they're going to say, well, try this or try this. And if you have that journal and you say, I've already tried that, you're going to save a lot of time. And I think, I don't know this, but I think your practitioner will probably take you more seriously because you've really tried. You're really working on it. So that's the first thing that I want you to do. My next tip for you is to get ready for sleep all day long. I know this sounds crazy. But the longer you're awake during the day, the stronger your sleep drive is going to be at night. Remember that chemical I talked about? So if you are sleeping too long at night, then your sleep drive during the day, or if you're getting up too late, then it pushes back your drive to go to sleep at night. Naps during the day, naps can be helpful if you didn't sleep well the night before, but it's a temporary fix. And so it's kind of like the street cleaners coming around during the day and taking out some of the things that smell really bad. So it can be helpful, but it is not a replacement. And you want to make sure that those naps are before about 3 p.m. and that they're not longer than 30 minutes. If it's longer than 30 minutes, then it's going to disrupt your sleep at night. Be active during the day. Okay, whatever that means for you, look at your physical activity, whether it's walking, exercising, going to the gym, lifting weights, because remember, you're building that adenosine and you're pushing your sleep drive to help you sleep better at night. And then one more thing during the day, we're going to talk about relaxing before you go to bed, but you want to practice that sometime during the day. So take a 15-minute window, find a relaxation tool that you like, mindfulness, breathing, and do it sometime during the day as a practice so that you're ready to do it at night. I'll give you lots of resources and you can find one that you like. So we're journaling. We are preparing for sleep all day long. The next thing that we're doing is we're coming up with our nighttime routine. Your nighttime routine helps your body know, oh, okay, she's doing this. It's time to wind down. The dogs, well, I say dogs, I have Charlie, but you might know we oftentimes have Lindsay's dog Sailor, and they know exactly they know when the TV goes off, they go to the door, and they know that they go out, we get a little treat, and even they run in, they go to the bed, and they will wait for us. Sometimes we trick them, and we act like we're going to bed, and then we just hang out for 10, 12 minutes, and they still wait. They know when it's time for bed. And I know we're not dogs, but there is something about habit in our lives. So your bedtime routine includes leading up to bedtime. Don't work out before bedtime. Be careful to not eat a heavy meal or drink a lot before you go to bed. Pay attention to that in your journal because that might keep that might be keeping you awake. You want to do something relaxing. Don't watch a horror movie or something that's upsetting to you before you go to bed. All right, we're getting ready for sleep. And as you get in bed, having that relaxation activity that you practiced earlier, it can be 10 minutes of just closing your eyes and breathing, but something that triggers your body that it's time to go to bed. Now, the experts will tell you that when you get in bed, not to do any non related sleep activities. But let me explain what that means and also tell you that you are an individual and you have to figure out what works for you. So, one of the things I will say is don't watch TV in bed. Well, that's probably true, but for 10 years, no longer than that, I don't know. My husband and I have watched Big Bang Theory every single night before we go to bed. So there's something about the music, the show. It doesn't take a lot of mental energy. We've seen every episode probably 50 times. We know what's going to happen. We can quote it, but it's like our body gets triggered by that. And I'll usually fall asleep in the middle. We watch one episode and then I usually fall asleep in the middle of a second one. So, I would say don't get in bed 2 hours early and watch a movie. Don't pay bills or do work or anything. And we're talking about bedtime related activities are sleep and sex. I mean, those are a couple things, but you have to figure out what works for you. But you want to associate bed with sleep. Bed with sleep. You don't want to associate bed with financial worry. You don't want to associate bed with being upset about that colleague you were with today. Bed is sleep. And in fact, you want to limit the time in bed to match your average sleep time. So, what we mean is, let's say that you average 6 hours of sleep. Don't spend more than 7 hours in bed. You don't want to be hanging out in bed for a long time. My final one is your bed environment, your sleep environment. I remember when I first started traveling to speak, and a lot of the times I worked with a seminar company and our hotels were awful. So, but every once in a while they would put us in a nice hotel. And by nice, I'm going to say the first one was Hampton. For some of you, that's like, well, that's just a regular hotel. But for me, it was a really nice hotel. And I loved their sheets. And then I would stay maybe occasionally in a really nice Marriott and their pillows and their comforters. I was like, oh my gosh. And then I realized you can buy those things. Now, I know some of them are very expensive and we want to be budget conscious, but to the best that you can with your budget, create a sleep environment that is cozy and enveloping and wonderful and soft. And we now get our sheets from, and I'll post these, Boll, Boll, and Branch. Now, my daughter, I can't remember, she got, and they're a couple $100s for a sheet set. And we bought them. They last us a few years, and then we buy more. Love them. My daughter bought us some from another company that they love, hated them. So, if you're in a hotel, you find some sheets that you like, because we did order the Hampton sheets, then order them. Pillows that you like, comforters that you like. Most hotels will give you where they purchase their stuff. They oftentimes put them on their website. Make a sleep environment. Okay, some other things. Optimal sleep environment is, believe it or not, like 66 degrees. Your body will sleep better. Make your room dark. If you're sleeping during the day, again, I'm not giving a lot of tips for nighttime workers, but have your room dark. Have white noise if that helps you. Avoid blue light. That is your phone, your tablet, your computer before you go to bed, but especially in bed. And then I want to show you one of my most helpful tips. So I told you I would mention progressive muscle relaxation is where the speaker and whatever you're listening to will guide you through tensing the toes in your feet and relaxing, and then your legs and relaxing, and you just tense and relax the muscles of your body. It's really helpful to have a guide so that you don't get cramps. And remember, again, you're listening, which is another degree of keeping all the thoughts out of your head. And then visualization, visualize you walking through a forest or a beach or whatever it is. Find a voice that you like, find imagery that you like. I'll give you a couple of options. There are lots of different sleep apps out there now. Find what you like. But this is the thing. This is a Bluetooth headband. Okay, I'm going to put it on and it hooks up to your phone. This takes the place of the ginormous headphones or trying to put your AirPods in and you roll over and it hurts. These have very soft, I don't know if you can tell, but they're very skinny, soft speakers. And so you put this on, and what I do is even pull it over my eyes. Now, even if it's, let's see if I messed up my hair, which I probably did. Even if it's dark, and if you're only listening and not watching on YouTube, it's just a headband, okay? And you don't have to pull it down over your eyes. But doing that, when I use it for sleep, it makes me feel cozy and safe. It just does. It's like even in the dark, there's a little bit of light and it blocks a lot of that out. So my sound is blocked out, my light is blocked out, and then I have this person speaking to me, or I have this music, I have this visualization, and then there's just a little charger here, and you just use a USB and you just charge it. And then you pull all of this out, which is a little bit of a pain. Now, I think there may be some newer ones, and then you wash it. This meant so much to me that twice when I went out of town and forgot it, I ordered it for overnight delivery or same day. It was like $20. So when you go to bed at night, let's think about that sleep environment. All right, you all close your eyes. If you're driving, don't close your eyes, but visualize this with me. You're in a bed with the softest sheets, comfy pillows, 66 degrees, so you pull the cover up over you. It's dark. Pay attention also to your PJs or what you sleep in. Make sure that they're not annoying to you. Put that headband on, turn that app or whatever it is on, and don't give up. Don't give up. Okay? You may not fall asleep at all for nights. You're keeping a journal. You're writing down what you do, but there may be some point. I'm hoping there will. This is why I titled my sleep CD Learning to Sleep. We have taught ourselves that it's okay not to sleep. We have taught ourselves to stay up longer. So you may need to relearn. So you may not fall asleep, but maybe a week or two, you discover that you fall asleep before the end. And by the way, put it on loop. Whatever you do, put it on loop. And with my CD, what I did is at the end of the talking part, it transitions into music so that there's not this abrupt stop. But if you're sleeping, you don't need that voice anymore. And the final tip I wanted to mention is about your thoughts. So, full circle back to the beginning when I said how many of you have been like, okay, if I fall asleep now, I'll get 5 hours, I'll get 3 hours, I'll get 1 hour. Those thoughts are really disrupting your sleep. Negative thoughts about your sleep will trigger anxiety or worry, and that's going to activate you to be awake, right? Because your body's thinking, I need to be awake. And it's going to be harder to fall back asleep. So whether it's keeping you awake to begin with, or whether you wake up in the night and think, oh no, that's going to keep you awake longer. Thoughts like, okay, I have to get 8 hours. Oh no, I'm only going to get 6 hours. Oh, I'm going to be terrible in that meeting. Revamping those thoughts, reframing your thoughts is super important. And I know it may sound simple and not helpful, but okay, I'm going to try to fall back asleep. I'm going to get up, drink some warm herbal tea, drink some warm milk. I'm going to read something relaxing. I'm going to knit or crochet or work a puzzle, and then I'm going to try to go back to sleep. So you're reminding your body to stay relaxed, to try to control your thoughts so that your body preps to go back to sleep or to go to sleep, not to wake up. because it's anxious and worried. And this is actually a field called CBT-I. It's cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. I'm going to post a really great program that's out there. I think it's like $49. It talks about some of the things we talked about, and then it goes deeper into all the information about sleep. So I'm going to post all the other things in the show notes. I'm going to post the sleep journal from the National Institutes of Health. I'm going to post a sleep toolkit from Curly Healthcare. That is the company I do EAP webinars for. I'm going to post a link to the sleep headband and all the things. So there's going to be a lot in the show notes. Please remember that if you post on our show notes, if you post some of the stories, the things I asked you to share at the beginning, then I'm going to do a drawing for my sleep CD. And I may be able to send it to you digitally. Some of these things I'm thinking through as I do them. Okay, so my final reminder, do not let the world tell you that not sleeping, therefore suffering, makes you valuable. Because what it does is it makes you unhappy, it makes you grumpy, it makes you not age as well, and overall, it just makes you have a life that's not as wonderful as the life you could be having if you slept better. So that's all I have for you today. Please do the rate, the download, join our Facebook group, follow us on all the social medias. It's all in the show notes. And until we're together next time, consider yourself hugged.